Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Dude, Check This Out. Actually on time within a month this time, so 50% consistency on that now.
Yeah,
Uh,
we're doing pretty
I
good.
am Paralurks. Yeah,
I am
I'm
Pig Video
Paralurks
Games.
and special guest. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Hylian Wolfo, and I'm here to talk about Spider-Man.
Yes, you are. We've roped in a new dude to check this out.
I've been on Pig's channel before in the Alan Wake playthroughs,
Yes.
but this is my first time being on any podcast or thing, and streams here and there.
Any podcasts that we're ever willing to mention.
Hey, listen, those are unlisted because I'm ashamed.
You should be. That's deep lore that no one will ever know all the details of.
Maybe one day we will do new podcasts besides this one. But regardless, Para, this was your recommendation, right?
Yes. So, as the new addition, who may be a recurring guest, I don't know. Depends on what the recommendation of any given month is. I'll let
Please
you know.
talk to me. I'm lonely.
Yeah. If we ever absorb DMC content that the other hasn't gone through, you'll be roped into that as well.
I think all that would be left is like the manga or something.
Well, you guys haven't seen the anime.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there is a whole new anime as well. What if I force you guys to watch that in 2 months?
Well, we don't know about that yet.
That's true.
Well,
anyway,
we'll discuss this. But
yes,
you
back to
are the biggest webhead, I'd say, between the three of us.
I am in fact the Spider-Man of our friend group, which is why I recommended issues 1 through issue 27 of Brian Michael Bendis's Ultimate Spider-Man. There's a lot that I really love about this run, and I wasn't sure the amount to recommend because consuming the amount of media for a monthly podcast is a weird thing to get used to, especially since we keep switching mediums. Because first it was a game that Pig had already nearly finished at first. Then it was a series of movies. Now it's X issues of a comic book. So I figured about 2-ish arcs would be a fine amount, considering everyone has familiarity with at least some of the lore and characters of Spider-Man, and there's a lot of differences and also just influence to the Ultimate versions, so there'd be plenty to talk about. Plus, with an extra voice to chip in, it'll be easy enough to fill up an hour to hour and a half of content with 27 issues. So
I think the amount you told us to read was it ended really succinctly. Where oh yeah, I could see this amount of issue being a complete story with an open ending.
The thing with the specific run of the original Ultimate Spider-Man that you chose for this is also going up to issue 27 makes a lot of sense, though, for the structure of everything that's within those 27 issues, as well as the kind of the break point, because I haven't read Ultimate Spider-Man in a long time, but rereading it, I got refreshed on where everything is segmented, and issue 27 is like a very good breathing room stopping point to tackle a chunk of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was. I wanted you to get to that specific spot for that end of arc, the place it leaves several characters, and also because the very next issue may as well just not happen. It is. I'll just tell you, it is I mentioned in a call before that we've had. The Rhino showing up and Spider-Man rushing to get there, and Iron Man having already taken care of it by the time he does because he has to go through all this other bullshit. It's that issue. It is a one-off thing that is actually tonally really almost whiplash from the rest because Mary Jane is acting like everything's fine and nothing happened.
That's weird.
I feel like that probably was a clumsy writing decision of, okay, you need to introduce other Ultimate heroes into this right now.
It's not addressed. That if you don't read issue 28, you miss literally nothing. But
You would have seen
Anyway.
what the Rhino looked like.
that's
Uh,
true. He's a big robot-looking man.
I have opinions. Some I've changed from initially saying them earlier on designs, but I don't know how you guys want to structure this. So, do you want to go through characterization, or how do you want to handle this?
Yeah, well, I figured first I let people know why why I enjoy it, because it's my recommendation, and it's a very special run of comics to me, because I've read a lot of comics, but most of it has been Spider-Man. At this point, I've read hundreds and hundreds of issues of various Spider-Men at this point. Ultimate, original Ultimate, not the new Ultimate Universe, but original Ultimate is probably tied for my favorite run of a Spider-Man piece of media ever, because I feel like this version of young Peter Parker is the most relatable I've ever felt a comic book character be at the time I read it, which is only a few years ago that I got into Ultimate. Or maybe more than a few. Might have been 5 or so. I don't know.
Well, we've talked about the video game, but for me, and like off recording, but for me,
Mhm.
my introduction to the ultimate continuity of Marvel in general was from the GameCube version of the Ultimate Spider-Man video game, which it actually starts with arcs that are later in the comic, not far off from where we stopped reading, which is funny enough.
Yeah. And Pig, did you have any exposure to the Ultimate Marvel universe before this, outside of just hearing me or Wolfo talk about it?
No. Like I don't really read comic books at all. That's mostly just like you guys that read comic books. Like before
Yeah, because I knew you read manga.
Yeah, before this, the only comic books I've read were some of the Marvel zombie stuff.
Oh, that makes
And
sense.
very recently, I per your recommendation, I started the new Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah, it is a
The
great starting point.
Yeah, the Marvel Zombie storyline is really good until it really isn't, and that point is pretty fast, unfortunately.
They get Galactus powers at some point.
Yeah, that I felt like that was kind of when it was like they didn't know what to do at that point.
I it,
Like,
I think it started with an Evil Dead crossover.
yeah, Ash has shown up in Marvel several times.
Yeah.
It's sort of like how
Ash
the
is
Predator and stuff will show up in DC.
Ash is a lot like Geralt from The Witcher. Just keeps falling through portals into nonsense. But
That makes sense.
to mention mentioning Pig, you mentioned the new Ultimate Universe Spider-Man, which I have also been reading, and comparing the setups of the two Ultimate Universes is very funny to me, because one is about the struggles of a teenager who's like he's like 15.
Yeah.
Like
He's 15.
he's this isn't even like I'm about to become an adult teenager. This is I'm barely a teenager.
Like this is a baby, a child.
And he's getting gaslit and beaten and screamed at. And then
Yeah, and you feel for him.
and Ultimate Peter Parker from the new Ultimate Universe is a Peter who has to deal with all these the new superhero related antics he has to go through, but contrasted with the decades of life experience he's had being a normal person.
Yeah, like he's
Yeah.
like mid to late 30s.
He has 2 kids. He's married
This may be the oldest we've seen Peter Parker.
in that Ultimate Universe. Yeah.
In a mainline, not limited Elseworld run, perhaps, but Spider-Man Reign is a thing that exists,
Okay.
which is like old man Peter.
Oh, like graying elderly grandpa.
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing that I like about the difference is the timing of the new Ultimate Universe's existence, because the kids, the 10 to like 17-year-olds who were reading Ultimate Spider-Man in the early and mid 2000s are now in their 40s looking at the new Ultimate Peter feeling the same way again. And that's really cool.
Because to go back to the original Ultimate Universe for a second,
Oh, yeah.
because for me, when it comes to comics, I'm someone who has fallen on and off comics, mostly due to editorial decisions, and I'm trying to avoid getting too heavy into criticisms about the current Spider Office and the Amazing Spider-Man run as it is now. I would like to focus on the good things, but what I will say is that I've like gone in and out of loving to hating to loving comics over and over, and the Ultimate Spider-Man run is just, it's so concrete and classic, and it doesn't feel, it's just refreshing to go back to because it doesn't feel like it's trying too hard. And that's something that I unfortunately can't say about all of the Ultimate Universe. But what I can say, thankfully, about the Ultimate Spider-Man run is it's, I'd say, near flawless overall.
There are definitely flaws, but you haven't got to them yet. I don't know if Pig will continue, but you've already told me that you're going to read more of this Ultimate Spider-Man.
And the flaws, I do fairly remember the flaws that, like, there's Ultimatum, a bunch of other crap.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the Spider-Man stuff in Ultimatum is still really good. Spider-Man Mid-Ultimatum has one of my favorite character moments in the Ultimate Universe, actually. Bendis really made the best of it. But, yeah, Ultimate Spider-Man, especially, like, early on, it reminds me you why people love Spider-Man. That's what it makes me feel, is like, yeah, this is what it's about. It's about these characters doing things because it's right, no matter how frustrating and hard it gets. But we've been tangenting a bit here. Let's get back on track. I think it's pretty clear. We all think this is a solid fucking piece of storytelling, but I'd like to get into more specifics. Are there any we should probably actually summarize things that happen in this story rather than talking about how good it is. Yeah. So I guess I'll give a brief summary of I guess 2 major arcs are what happened here. Or 3, really. You get the initial gaining your powers and taking on the Kingpin arc. There is a brief interaction with the Green Goblin that happens in there, but isn't really focused on. It's more set up for later. Then we get the Doc Ock arc, and then we have the actual fulfillment of a Green Goblin arc that was promised in that early bit.
And there's a little bit of Craven splashed in there too.
Yeah.
Just a taste. Just a tease.
You're not going to get much more.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Ultimate Craven's kind of a bitch.
He's we'll get to some differences on the takes of characters, but I very much enjoy that we get one like setup and establishment of our characters, the actual situation that Peter is in with his powers and his social and home life. We have an arc of him getting up against a classic major Spider-Man villain and having to figure it out on the fly because he doesn't know what Doc Ock's about. He doesn't always know how to handle these big villains that are a real match for him. And then we get the Green Goblin, who gets in Peter's head, in his social life, in his school life, in his home life. And it's as hard as it gets for him.
It is, like... It's too much for a 15-year-old.
And I love that the comic focuses on that fact that he has these moments where he just goes to some random roof and breaks down for 10 minutes before moving on.
I would say there are very creepy undertones, especially in the scene later on, to skip ahead a little bit, where Norman is showing off his Green Goblin transformation, and then it's just hanging around this 15-year-old kid naked.
Yeah.
And just imposing over him. Yeah, that's...
Yeah. Like, it's one thing for, like, a man who is older and, like, 2.5 times the size in his regular form of this child telling him, "I will beat you to death." But doing that while naked in front of him just adds a different energy.
It comes off as very uncomfortable and shocking, but in a correctly used way. It's not used in like a over the top, oh my god, look at this, like schlock way. It's very appropriate for the situation, which is once again something I really appreciate about the Spider-Man section of the Ultimate Universe. Is it will do things intensely or way trying to subvert your thought process on things, but it never does it in a way that you're just disgusted or upset. That you're like you didn't need to do that. Whereas other aspects of the Ultimate Universe, unfortunately, really love doing that.
Oh yeah.
I for research for this, I read the Spider-Man comics that were on the list up to issue 27. But I also looked around at some of the other Ultimate Universe comics, and don't get me wrong, they're still really, really good. A lot of them. But like Spider-Man came out first with Ultimate Spider-Man came out first in 2000. And then we started getting Ultimate X-Men in 2001, the Ultimates, which is their Avengers in 2002. And you got like Ultimate Fantastic Four in 2004 and Captain America from the Ultimate. Like you've got all these different Ultimate lines. But like I feel like when it comes to quality scale, I'd say Ultimate Spider-Man and like Fantastic Four and the Ultimates are mostly good. And then there's some issues with both all of those runs, especially the Ultimate X-Men, where it feels like they're trying way too hard. But I mean, this was early 2000s, and that was the style of the time, so I understand it.
Yeah, you would notice if you looked across the board on the Ultimate versions of characters, there's a lot of colorful costumes that have been replaced with just tight black clothing and black leather.
Like I like a lot of the redesigns, and there's others I don't like. Like I like Ultimate Shocker, for example. We didn't mention him.
Oh, I love him.
He
He shows
appears for
up
like
here.
2 pages.
He appears to get beat up, which is, that's Shocker. That's his role. But
Yeah.
he looks like Quicksilver in cosplay of someone else, and then he just is gone.
Yeah,
Like,
because he is just some guy.
But it's just funny to me because he has like the black and white, he has the silver hair, he has the like he looks like a fusion of Quicksilver and Captain Cold from DC. And it's just funny to me because I know even though he's a joke character, they were trying to find a way to make him look cool in the 2000s Edge era.
Yeah, or at least
It's fun.
appropriate to exist next to all the others.
Yeah.
I think they were trying way harder with Electro.
Electro, which is funny. This, for some reason, I mean, Para, we've talked about this before. For some reason, I thought Electro was black in the Ultimate Universe. And it's entirely because the Amazing Spider-Man 2 gaslit me. Because they use the Electro at points later on. We'll get the full electric body design, where he's like a blue man or like completely yellow.
Yeah,
for electricity, and then they did that in Amazing Spider-Man 2, and for some reason I just said, oh well, yeah, under the blue, he's this cool black guy. Because
I think cool. I think it might have been your brain remembering that for the past like couple decades, the rule has been always give electricity powers to black guys.
Yeah, but it's just I like and I dislike Electro's design because I like it because it works in the context of the story.
Yeah, because he's some guy that works for Kingpin.
And he's some guy that got experimented on and works for Kingpin.
Yeah, like he just looks like that. I initially didn't even identify him as Electro, and to my knowledge, is he even named like Electro at all?
Yes, he's in his first encounter. He specifically corrects Kingpin to be like, no, boss, it's Electro. You call me Electro. I have electricity powers. I want to be called Electro.
Yeah, he accidentally calls Electro Electra, which
I did catch that.
Because they're playing with you like your expectation. You're gonna go, oh my god, is it Electra like from Daredevil stuff? But no, it's Electro. He's just like, please stop getting my name wrong.
Yeah. The funny thing is, Kingpin later on in the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, you'll see that Kingpin does hire Elektra. So Elektra either does or will work for Kingpin. So that's an extra funny one.
Well, and honestly, that's not that's not too uncommon. There's a lot of overlap between a cast of Spider-Man and cast of Daredevil. They share quite a bit. But what's funny is though with Electro is I know someone when they were doing the redesign did not want to give him his stupid starfish mask. But his stupid starfish mask is so good and I miss it.
I love it.
Like I like I like the Sony Spider-Man like PS4 and PS5 games. Those are still good games, but them replacing Elektra's mask of just he has the scars in the shape of the star on his head made me sad.
Oh, is that how they do it?
Yeah, that's how they.
That is how they do it. But
also,
right,
this is just a side tangent. But I like Electro in this doing it because he wants money.
Yeah.
Later Electro stuff, they've been like, well, we need to give him a reason. And they decided his reason is he wants to become pure energy. But that doesn't mean anything. And it's stupid when you could just say, I want to use my superpowers to get money because I like being rich and having money.
Yeah.
Like I know it's the same thing to Shocker, but like you don't
that's fine.
Electro could be like, what if Shocker was successful and not a loser?
Yeah.
Yeah. But clearly, we have enough to talk about with even characters who appear in probably like a dozen pages total, like Electro. But let me get some specific takes. Yeah, of the 3 arcs we've discussed, Pig, do you have a favorite of these 3 little stories?
Definitely the Goblin arc at the end.
Yeah, it's probably like the strongest due to it having the strongest villain element and Norman being written as well as he is. Wolfo, do you have an arc that you think is the best?
I would agree that I think the best arc is the 3rd arc with the Green Goblin, but each arc has very specific scees and of just the dialogue and talking that is super important to me.
Oh yeah. It's a strength of Bendis that he takes his time for characters to breathe. No matter how much he needs to get to the next superhero or supervillain thing, there'll be all these little moments of Kenny piecing together, Kenny being the sidekick bully to Flash Thompson, piecing together. Wait, is Peter Parker actually Spider-Man? He's been doing some nut stuff lately. Or
that was
like
a good
Liz
moment.
Allen being mutant phobic, or Aunt May just like not knowing what to do with herself because her husband's recently dead, and Peter's always out of the house. And we spent so little time. I don't even know if he likes hanging out with me.
I really enjoy all the small character touches because even if they're very small moments, those small moments build upon each other and make you actually care about the extended cast. And so, for disclosure, my first comics I ever read getting into were the original 60s Amazing Spider-Man comics. To the point where I can name the first arc I ever read, which is the iconic creation of Scorpion.
Yeah,
because I was able to get my hand on reprints of here's reprints of the classic comics that
nuts.
aren't worth anything because the reprints, but those were the first comics I read, and so it's funny because you obviously standards evolve and change, but there are characters in like the 60s comics that don't get enough play And then they're
Right.
given so much, and even the small amount of issues we're reading now in this. So
Yeah.
settings have changed because, like, we've talked about this endless times, but Peter didn't know most of his extended cast in high school.
Yeah, that was going to be the next thing I brought up because you and I have a lot of history with reading and understanding like these characters and where they came from, but Pig is fresh on the comic journey and he's experienced Spider-Man media elsewhere, the Raimi movies, the other live actions, a couple of the cartoons,
Yeah.
but like actually reading some comic source material stuff is a new thing for Pig. So I was going to
Yeah.
have our next segment be like the actual differences and what everyone thinks of the ultimate versions of the various characters. Because Peter, I'll go on my little tangent. You guys have heard me do a version of this before, but hey,
Yeah.
podcast content.
Yeah. Hey, go ahead.
Yeah. So, Ultimate Teenage Peter Parker is not the same guy as 616 Peter Parker, even in as a teenager at the same age back in the day. He's there's a very important difference in the first arc, and this will go into Aunt May and Uncle Ben as well. Because in Amazing Fantasy 15, I want to say it was, where we are in the world is introduced to Spider-Man for the first time. Yes, Peter Parker is a nerdy high school boy, and Aunt May and Uncle Ben are the loving family that took him in when his parents died. He gets bit, he doesn't stop a crook, and Uncle Ben's shot and we learned the lesson. Gotta go. We gotta recognize our responsibility. At that point, Peter Parker and Spider-Man are still not a hero. They don't do hero things yet. That still takes time. With Ultimate Peter, all that in 616, that was one issue. You get, I believe, 3, maybe 4 actual drawings of Uncle Ben total before he dies.
Yeah, I've seen some of those pages.
Yeah,
Like
so
the styling of comics is so wildly different from then to now.
yeah, he speaks like 3 sentences as the fans know him, and then he dies. And in the original 60s run with Stan Lee, it takes 30 or so issues before like Uncle Ben is really a motivation for Peter to be a hero. Like at least as stated in the comics or by Peter or anything. Like the guilt of Uncle Ben driving him is not what's driving him for like 30 issues.
That long, really?
Yeah. It took a while before they really found out the things that worked best for Peter because it was a very new concept at the time. But having an understanding of what the character is and should be, Bendis, especially with this style of letting characters breathe more, was able to like, no, let's really let you know how important each of these elements of Peter's life is. So it takes several issues before we see a Spider-Man costume. Uncle Ben's around for a while. You get to know him. You start giving a shit about him because you get the feel of the kind of guy he is, and he's just a lovable dude. He wants to take care of his family. He wants to make sure Peter's the best kind of man he ought to be. He wants to make sure he lives up to his responsibility. He cares about Mary Jane. Mary, like, who in 616 doesn't exist for years. You really get to know him, and that makes you give more of a shit when he dies. Also, in the 616 version, Spidey's a showman when the guy runs past him, and the cop chews him out. Hey, you could have tripped him or stopped him, whatever. You're the Spider-Man. That's a police officer saying to some random guy that he saw, "Why didn't you assault the armed mugger? Why didn't you do my job for me with no training or weapon?"
And he's
That's actually very stupid. Peter wasn't even in the wrong, really, in 616. He's just the kind of guy who will guilt himself because he knew he could have potentially done something different.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, and another thing is that the type of guy Peter is, both immediately before and after all that stuff happens, there's a very different messaging in 616 of he has to figure out when he gets the great power, he has to rise up to it in order to fulfill the great responsibility. He has to become a better person than he was in 616. there's much more of a tone in Ultimate of you're already a great guy, Peter, but this great power went to your head and you forgot how to be that great guy because you went looking at what you can do and not what you should do, and you got to get back to being that good guy. It's different and it's subtle, but it's not quite the same, and I kind of like this version more because you really get a feeling of he was always that good a kid. He always would have done the things he does. Like, whether he had powers or not, he always would have tried to find a way to help someone in these different situations. And I love that a lot. But, just to make sure I don't ramble too much, Pig, what are some things that you might have been surprised at or thought were really notable compared to what you've seen in other media as to how we're introduced to different characters or how they come across?
So I was surprised just how much Ben we actually get.
Yeah, he's great.
And and another one was like Peter and MJ's relationship early on.
Oh yeah.
They're just basically like best friends alongside with Harry.
Yeah, you don't really get to see her and Harry interact much. It's like they're separately friends. I had the feeling when I first read it that Peter and Harry's friendship was a separate entity from MJ and Peter's friendship.
Yeah.
But then when he comes back later, it's like, oh hey, the trio's back together.
You what? Yeah, I did get that feeling as well. Well, they're both friends with Peter, but they're not friends with each other, like per se. But you can.
I would say I would also kind of agree with that.
Yeah.
Like for when they meet,
which is funny because of things that happen later in the comics. Yeah, but I won't get into that right now.
When they meet later on, it's like, oh yeah, I guess they were a trio. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because then there are little things where like there's little things where you can tell that like Harry and MJ know each other and they know of each other's relationships to Peter, but they don't spend a ton of time as a trio. Because it'll be like Harry comes over and he just says, "Man, your basement's always cool. You ever bring Brainy Janie down here, get some action going?" "No? Oh, whatever." So he's asking questions about it, so he doesn't already know. Stuff like that.
And his relationship with Harry kind of felt like this guy is too cool to be friends with Peter, but like they're friends anyway. Which I wish we got a bit more of like their friendship early on.
Just for my, I was just going to add, I agree that I wish we got more. I was just going to say my kind of interpretation of that is because Peter, he is hiring Peter to like tutor him as a detail, right?
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those situations where he's like, I need to up my grades, and he goes to the nerdy kid who his classmates always bully, the other members of like the sports teams and all that, who are more in quote unquote his like tier of high school shenanigans. But then he's being tutored and talking to Peter, and I feel like that's part of what would have made him actually like Peter, is going through the process of tutoring and going, yeah, sure, this guy is like nerdy, but like he's a really good guy, and he's kind of stuck in between this place where he has Flash and the others who are his more of his peers who shit on Peter all the time and just humiliate him for really no reason.
Yeah.
Like, and then he's kind of stuck in between them, and he tries to get them to calm it down, but he doesn't like fight them or anything specifically, because he's still friends with them. But then later Harry comes back and he basically tells the Flash to fuck himself.
Great.
Because Peter and MJ cared way more about him than Flash did.
Flash never called.
Yeah.
He specifically says that, Flash, you never called. What the fuck?
And how it would be implied, how it was implied, and how I kind of interpreted it is, MJ and Harry weren't initially super close, but as her and Peter have gotten closer and they both worry and caring about Harry, it kind of caused them to become a trio of friends.
Yeah,
Through
yeah.
that.
I think you'll both be happy to know that that does actually get expanded upon later on in Ultimate Spider-Man.
Ah, good.
Is like, how was MJ and Harry's dynamic before everything went to shit? That is
Mhm.
addressed.
Okay,
So
that's
if you
interesting to know.
That's good.
yeah, so if you
That's
guys
good.
want to keep reading to later arcs, that is totally a thing you will find out. So we've got MJ and Harry, who he didn't actually meet in 616 until college years. In fact, the only like consistent high school cast between the two is there's Flash and there's Liz Allen, and that's the list. That's all of the overlap of high school.
Liz Allen was that
Actually.
blonde girl, right? That hangs out with Flash in them.
Yeah, she hangs out with
Okay.
MJ all the time, sometimes flashing them, and who's most notable for being super mutant phobic.
Yeah,
shit.
yeah. There were shades of that in this. I imagine that would come up more later.
Oh yeah, a lot.
It's funny to me that the topic of is Peter a mutant or not is already super apparent in the start of this.
Yeah, and like for all intents and purposes, yes, he is a mutant, but like not in the way that Marvel's mutants are mutants.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's no longer the correct word for him.
tab human.
Yeah, I do like DC's metahuman. That's a good term. But
Yeah.
any other standout characters for you, Pig, that surprised you or were just not what you were expecting?
I guess Doc Ock. Yeah, Doctor Octopus.
All right, what stands out about him?
His starting point, where like he works at Oscorp. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Well, that's a big thing about the Ultimate Spider-Man changes is that so much of it is linked directly to either Peter or Oscorp, because they're supposed to be very separate origins initially, but no, so many of these people are linked together now, and that's why it happens so much in the Raimi movies, in the different cartoons like Spectacular, in so much Spider-Man media now. It's because it got popularized by this comic in the 2000s.
Which is funny because now retroactively in 616 aka the like main Marvel continuity, the comics will refer to things that never happened within those comics as being the standard.
really?
Like they will act and behave like things that are in what the mass of like consciousness of pop culture think is associated with Peter, but would not have actually happened within the 616 comics.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Like you didn't necessarily mention her, but like the Gwen Stacy model that like defines who Gwen Stacy is now in everything that she appears in is the ultimate Gwen Stacy. And when the 616 Gwen Stacy is a very different Gwen that outside of those early comics before, Next Snap in the original run, we never see again. The closest to her return is the new Ultimate Universe. The
That
new
is
Ultimate
true.
Universe Gwen is significantly closer to the original Gwen than any other interpretation of her. And that's always been interesting to me. So even then, I like this version of Gwen as well.
Oh
Like,
yeah, she's great.
She's great, but even from what people think of when they think of Gwen Stacy, still also isn't this Gwen either in the Ultimate Universe. I feel
Yeah,
like
I'd argue that the modern interpretation of Gwen isn't strictly Ultimate Comics Gwen, it's a fusion of Ultimate Comics Mary Jane and Ultimate Gwen because it is
Exactly.
it's Brainy Janey, right? It is the nerdy like childhood friend who is always like, keeping up with Peter as the smarts. But with this, I'm going so far out of my way for these people, and I'm a little like loud and out there kind of shit that Ultimate Gwen brought in.
It's a weird fusion of two different side characters and possible love interests, and it's just funny to me that that's how impactful this run has been. That it's
Yeah.
changed things for the perception of comics that have no connection.
Right. But going back, Pig, how did was it mainly the origins, or is there anything else that struck you as different? Like,
Uh,
what is different about this Doc Ock compared to your understanding of Doc Ock?
well, not differences, but more like similarities with the
Hmm.
Raimi movies.
Ah, really? Uh, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of
Like there's the
one to one.
wrestling bit. There's him going after the guy who killed Ben.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
The, correct me if I'm wrong, Para, but is the wrestling bit in 616? Because I don't even remember.
No, that is Ultimate. See, he gets onto a like a just like a show, like a TV show. A producer sees what he's doing. Um, there is a prize thing. It might have been wrestling, but it was a
It was a very
bunch.
different. It was a very different like style and connotation.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was now, and I'm blanking. Because I know I noted a difference in my head as I went back and read Amazing Fantasy 15 for research on this because I wanted to note the differences. Hmm.
One thing that's definitely a big aspect to notice is that it's also multiple wrestling events. Like he keeps going back and doing more to get more and more money, which he gives to his an uncle. But I don't think he did it a bunch in other continuities.
Oh,
Always
okay, yeah, no, it
in that
was
one
a
or none.
So it was initially $100 to any man who can stay in the ring 3 minutes with Crusher Hogan. So that is correct to 616 and um, Ultimate. But in 616, he doesn't try to regularly make money with wrestling. He meets a TV producer who gets him a show where he displays his abilities, where he just sticks with wrestling for a while uh, in Ultimate, and that provides an explanation for his initial costume design.
Yeah, and then like the Raimi movies, they use the wrestling thing, but he only does the one show.
Yeah.
Though it is a good thing that you mentioned the Raimi movies, though, because the Raimi movies take a lot more from Ultimate than they did from 616,
oh yeah, like a lot. Like
which is
Harry and
interesting.
MJ are there. That.
Which is interesting because Sam Raimi specifically chose to do Spider-Man because he grew up reading the 616 comics.
Yeah, he's just smart enough to realize there is a modernized version of it that I can pull from here.
Yeah, well, Sam Raimi is a schlock genius.
He's great. Oh god, I love Sam Raimi.
Schlock genius.
But
Evil Dead. Going back to Ash for a second, yeah, the Evil Dead style sequence of Doc Ock getting his arms in or reacting with his arms in the hospital, where it's just an Evil Dead sequence of horror and murder and slasher deaths, basically.
yeah,
In Spider-Man 2, I feel like that had to be directly inspired by his reaction for Octavius's reaction when he's in the secret laboratory in Ultimate Spider-Man.
it's
Yeah,
pretty 1-to-1.
Yeah,
like the way these like villains are like created or born is very similar to the Sam Raimi. It's a couple of changes, but like the overall picture is the same. And
because
Yeah.
their relationship to Peter is also very similar.
It's funny because there's a lot of villains in like the original 616 who do have close ties to Peter and are super invested. But then you have shit like I mentioned earlier, like Scorpion, where it's I'm just made to kill Peter.
Yeah.
Oh no.
God, I love that so much. Yeah, I'm a newspaper editor. I'm going to pay science people to put this guy in some super scorpion armor to try and kill another guy. Apparently, the law is fine with this.
My favorite part about original Scorpion was that was their attempt to give a he's equal in almost every way, strength wise rival to
Yeah.
Spidey.
It's gonna be his Virgil.
That is what they attempted. It didn't go so well, but they attempted it.
A scorpion is a fine rival to a spider.
Yeah, arachnids.
You will once again, there's the Scorpion, a version of Scorpion appears in Ultimate Spider-Man way later. It is very brief, but it is very interesting what they choose to do. And it's I'm reminded of it because you're saying Scorpion as Peter's equal, almost two sides to the same coin. How is it? Oh my god. I look forward to you guys eventually getting there if both of you choose to continue reading.
Which I probably will.
Yeah.
What I also wanted to do though is because we're comparing the differences and jumping off before we jump off Doc Ock, I did want to talk about him having massive like pain when to light and sensitivity to light.
Yeah, which I think that was a bit in the Sam Raimi movie. I don't remember too well.
It was very early on, but it wasn't nearly as much of the weakness as it's been for this Octavius. And that's completely original to the Ultimate setting. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I might be wrong.
I figure.
believe so.
I figured. Okay, well, that's why he wears the sunglasses.
Yeah, they gave him a real reason for that part of the outfit.
Yeah.
The rest is just his own style choices, which Peter mocks him for.
Yeah, like his bowl cut.
Yeah, it's
I was just gonna say though that I like every version of these villains they've changed. And after whatever
Even
you're gonna
Kraven?
say. Well, is he even really a villain?
He tries to be.
I mean, kind of, not really. Like, okay, Kraven
He
comes on.
does go on national TV and says, "I'm gonna kill a guy," and everyone's fine with it.
Yeah, but
and Peter's just sitting there going, "He's just said he's gonna kill a guy. Why is everyone okay with this?"
Yeah, but that's what the producer told him to say. Like, okay, so he comes off to me as like this hunter guy, this like naturalist guy. But like, we gotta do a show. Come on, say these things. We
Yeah, play it up.
And like it comes off to me like he's not entirely into it, like into like that side of the whole thing.
He's not. He's about his business, but like the presentation, he's not crazy about. But hey, pays the bills.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, if since this is an ultimate continuity that is the ultimate continuity is specifically an alternate continuity that is trying to subvert things and change things to your experiences, I do think how Kraven is used is wonderful.
Yeah.
If this was an adaptation I was looking forward to, and I don't know how it was received at the time, I would have been so mad.
Yeah. The Kraven movie should be this version of Kraven.
Okay,
kind of.
So does Kraven have powers in 616?
No, but that's what makes him fun.
He doesn't have powers, but he does have a lot of drugs.
Okay.
So he will drug his prey, and he will like sometimes drug himself to put himself in a heightened state. But his main thing is like, one, he's just that fucking good of a hunter, but also he is still limiting himself by using primitive hunter tools. He will not use firearms. He will use spears. He will use bows. He will use tranq darts. He will not use he's not gonna pull out the AK-47 on you. One of his most arguably his most iconic story he ever had, is about the time he said, "All right, I've gone to my limits. I'm pulling out the shotgun." And you know what? He fucking wins. That's how good he is, actually, Pig. Is that when he decides, okay, I'm gonna use all the tools, even the modern hunter's shotgun, he actually pulls it off. He puts Spider-Man in the dirt, and then as a victory lap, he dresses up as Spider-Man, goes out and beats up criminals in his place, but then also kills them.
What?
Because fuck you, Spider-Man, I win.
Yeah, that's from some of the best Craven storyline stuff. What I did want to add a slight connotation. He does have powers technically, but they're just better than a normal dude because he brews special herbal potions that he periodically ingests.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
But
Yeah,
he's not like I have a metal skeleton or I can lift a truck. It's just I can run more than a better like a normal man.
Like he doesn't have like the powers of every animal.
He has the power of steroids, but like good steroids from a realistic today.
Yeah, and he so him jobbing in the Ultimate Universe and being just a phony is fine. It's good.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. It would be unfortunate if this was the only if this was happening with like tons of mainline villains that are like supposed to be super respected. That would be frustrating. But having it one and having it with Craven is is a good implementation of it.
Okay. Just go ahead.
In that scene with where Craven jobs, there's the other character. I forget his first name, but the Hammer, the guy.
Yeah, Justin Hammer.
Justin Hammer.
So I recently watched Iron Man 2, and Justin Hammer is in that, and this is such a wildly different adaptation of that character.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh hey, wow.
It's like that's what you think a Marvel big wig weapons guy who has shady dealings. This is what you would expect him to be, and then you have the MCU version.
I don't hate the MCU version. He's fine in that movie.
He tried to give a personality-filled antagonist, and he kind of pulled it off, just in a very mid movie. I'll give one last thing on Doc Ock is that I love his motivation in this because like it's twofold. Because Doc Ock in 616, he is all ego. That is what he is. And that's kind of just the point. He's like, I'm also a scientist like Norman or Peter. And I'm also evil like Norman. But I'm the best though, shut up. No, I'm better than you. I'm going to do so much you don't even know. Oh man, me. In this, it's two things. One, like the explosion and the trauma of the arms and the chemicals and all that have messed with his head. So he's very confused as to who's to blame for everything that went wrong and why he is the way he is, and he's got to take it out on someone. The other thing is that everyone wants to put something on him. Is like, yeah, I'm fucking up, but I need everyone to know that this isn't all my fault. Because I was just here to do my fucking science, man. That's all I want to do. At the end of the day, I just want to be a really good scientist. I'm righting some wrongs in my life that I see, and then I'm going to get back to my science. And that's just it. I love that that's his motivation, is give me back my fucking career.
Yeah.
I just want to experiment on some animals.
Maybe a 15-year-old boy every now and then.
I just want to put some lipstick on a bunny, see what happens.
It's funny too because like to swap villains. Multiple villains in this are insane. The most notable would definitely, at least especially for what we read, were Octavius and Norman.
Yeah.
With Octavius, he was just a normal guy working as a scientist who got fucked over.
Mm-hmm.
With Norman, he was an asshole, and then he became a superpowered asshole.
A superpowered psycho asshole.
But he's still
Yeah.
a jerk. Like, he was a jerk beforehand.
He
just
was still
became
willing
worse.
to murder a child beforehand.
He just gained a greater capacity to be an asshole.
Yeah.
We've mentioned this before, but nothing makes Norman Osborn happier than hating his own son.
No, Wolfo, not this version. This version, once Harry starts acting like a kid with his priorities straight, he even goes out of his way to say to Peter, "Listen, that doc got in Harry's head right. That's the best money I ever spent. I'm actually kind of proud of the boy. This is great. I love this. I love having my boy be the way I want him to be."
It's just yeah, but you're brainwashing him against his will.
That's fine. Don't worry
I
about
mean,
it.
that's just so he doesn't learn that he's the Goblin.
He
I do
also
love that.
made him forgive, not care about the fact his mom was dead, though.
That-
yes, but like
Yeah.
From the outside, it comes off as if like he's grown past it.
Yeah, and like outside of the stuff about his mom, Harry does seem like he's just in a better place. He knows who the best friends to pick are. He's happy to spend time with his dad. He wants to share his life with people. Like aside from just like having the bad memories suppressed against his will, everything else about his life is just better.
But with how issue 27 ended, oh.
Yeah, that's not great. So
It feels like to me, with Norman, that it feels like he's the kind of guy, and we've seen this in other things, so I would say it's fine. That he's a micromanager to the molecular level when it comes to wanting other people to do things particularly, and that includes how his son behaves.
Right.
And he's like, well, now my son's happier because I fucked with his brain to make him happy and do the things I want him to do. And I love how he portrays this as not only just a generous, benevolent thing he's done, but also like guilts Peter about it.
Because everything's a power play for him.
Like I don't know how much of this carries over to the original comics, but what I was gonna say is that I've always thought that I've always kind of been under the feeling that when it comes to the big Spider-Man villain, there is a couple of really, really the big ones. But if I was to say like Batman and Joker or Lex Luthor and Superman, it would be Green Goblin and Peter.
I would agree.
It has to be.
With everything I've been exposed to.
Venom's hype surpasses Norman in a lot of areas. But if you have to, if you ever sat down Peter and say, who's the biggest bad? The answer is always Norman Osborn.
And the thing is, Venom can be a force for good. He was written as a villain for the longest time, and it can still have some bad days. But you can do more of a capacity with Venom. You can't make Norman a good person.
No. He is hard set as big villain.
As someone who's been reading the 616 comics quite a bit, what if a magic shotgun blasted all the sin out of Norman Osborn's soul, Wolfo?
Well, I would do things that I should not say in a recording to the Spider-Man editors.
Let's not go on this tangent.
The amazing Spider-Man line makes me sad.
It's been in a rough place for some years now, but luckily we have Ultimate instead.
We have 2 Ultimates even.
Yeah, I have 2 other characters I think we should briefly go over before moving on. I would Pig, did you expect it to be just straight up Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Fury, Frame 1?
No, I wasn't expecting that.
This is why the casting choice was made.
Yeah. Like I said,
They based him off they based him off Samuel L. Jackson before there was even a hint of that being a movie.
yeah, like as soon as I saw
8
him,
years.
I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's where
Yeah,
that's
because
from.
for you this would fit because you've always like almost all iterations of Nick Fury you would know of are just Sam Jackson.
Yeah, I would have been exposed to, and later on, I had learned about like, oh, the older one, the
Yeah,
older version
he
of
was
the character was a white guy, and
Yeah,
early on, I learned that like he had married a black woman and had a the black Nick Fury, Nick Fury
Yeah.
Jr.
Yeah, I discovered this and we talked about it that there's 3 Nick Furies technically. There's Ultimate Universe Nick Fury, who looks like Samuel L. Jackson. Then there's the original Nick Fury, who was a white guy with the white sideburns, very similar to Reed. Except he has the eye patch because action movies are cool.
Yeah.
And then he ends up having a kid that's Nick Fury Jr. because they really want to keep using the Samuel L. Jackson Nick Fury design. So there's 2 Nick Furies in 616, one being the dad, one being the kid. And the kid looks like Samuel L. Jackson Nick Fury, just a little younger now, like
Yeah.
younger Samuel L. Jackson. And Nick Fury Sr. is still out there. He goes by the alias The Unseen right now, and he's like in space. Around the Earth, like in a hidden thing on the moon.
Yeah, he's doing
It-
Yeah,
stuff.
that sounds about right.
But I like classic Nick Fury's design. I also like Ultimate Nick Fury's design. I'm fine with either. But it being Samuel L. Jackson just appearing in your school would be the weirdest shit.
It's great.
On that bit, I love the introduction of him and like for to get extent the introduction of Shield in this setting. We're like
Yeah,
There-
especially at the very end there. It was
there's
very
this-
interesting.
There's this government agency where you're not sure if they're like good guys or not, especially from Peter's perspective. And suddenly Nick Fury comes in and like explains like the greater plot of the universe to them. Like this is a lot to put on a kid.
Especially when he just had his family friend
Yeah,
by a crazy green man.
And he wants to tell Mary Jane about this, but all of a sudden he can't. Not allowed. Dangerous.
Everything is dangerous.
I would like to talk about Nick Fury being like, yeah, as soon as you're 18, I just own you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like what do you mean?
Yeah, because because his exact words are, "Look, there's plenty of time and opportunity for you here later, but that's later. You know, when you turn 18." He's like, Peter replies with something along the lines of, "Why would I want anything to do with you people after stuff like this?" He's like, "You think you got a choice?"
And
It's very interesting.
I assume this is like explored more in the X-Men stuff.
It's in the X-Men stuff. It's in the Ultimate stuff. It's all over.
Well,
But the problem is, so remember, this is early 2000s. So there's a lot of analogies and metaphors for the sheer amount of dominant control of like the federal government or world governments in general over people and
Yeah.
protection for the greater good, thinking of like the Patriot Act,
Yeah,
stuff
but-
like that.
All the immediate post 9/11 stuff.
Yeah, and all that's hitting the superheroes and Marvel setting as well, where like the people in power in the Marvel setting are completely willing to sell who knows how many people's freedom away to Shield to decide how to do what needs to be done, regardless of who.
now, I'm going to say that specific part of conversation of, once you're 18, you basically belong to me legally. That conversation is addressed in the very next major story arc of Venom.
A Venom?
That would make sense. Yeah, the Venom story arc is immediately after what we were just reading.
Oh, good.
Yes.
The stuff with Flash
I
Thompson.
will, but I will briefly mention it. What I do like about Venom, and we didn't read it, but I do like the differences they do with Venom are very interesting
Right.
for doing different takes and subversions.
Yeah, I will clarify. It's not the very very next arc. It's there is a short arc that you will recognize from the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon a little bit before Venom. But it's not that long. Just a few issues.
This is the setting for the Ultimate Universe is both it's centered in the 2000s, so it's very edgy. It's edgy and grounded at the same time, but also because of what you're allowed to do with comics more, especially in the Ultimate Universe, where you're allowed to do more branching out stuff. There's things that will be good that are shocking and things that will be badly written that are shocking, but they'll have a good mix of them. And the most shocking thing of all, really, was when Peter showed up with a bunch of fat jokes to make fun of the Kingpin.
Oh,
I love that.
I bet I was him being. It's like when he first does superhero stuff in the suit, which by the way he just got from the wrestling guy, the promoter. He just gave it to him.
He didn't have the logo on the chest at first, though.
Yeah, nor the webbing bit.
Yeah, Peter added the webs in the logo.
Yeah, it's a very there it is for the suit's origin. But what I was getting at, his first time being a superhero in the suit, and he's starting to crack jokes. They're like, oh, he's cracking jokes because he's nervous and scared, which of course he is. He's 15.
Yeah, but recontextualizing it for anyone who's not familiar, especially for a kid, it makes a lot of sense. Of if I keep talking and keep my brain busy that way, then I can continue to function without breaking down.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that is, well, that's why he does it, of course, but not only is that a good aspect of it, it also pisses people off so easily, and that causes them to trip up and mess up in fights. Yeah, Kingpin really is not used to being talked down to, and it's one of the easiest ways to get him angry and off of his game. I do like how Peter goes from hitting Mooks or Shocker, and he's cocky, but he's not wrong to be cocky at this point. And then he starts getting to actual threatening mooks, and then people who are actually a problem, like Kingpin, who could just actually put up a decent fight despite being just a guy.
Or just his first fight with Electro.
Yeah, where he got fried.
He doesn't understand how. Yeah, you're really strong, but you're not the only strong person.
Yeah, and that's not the only thing in a fight either.
You also don't really know how to fight.
Yeah, I enjoy that Bendis took the time to have him experience spider sense several times before he started to figure out the pattern of, okay, that tingle is every time something's about to hit me or something, and I need to get away. I gotta remember that.
Yeah, him discovering how the spider sense works is very neat.
Yep. And the one last character I wanted to address was his relationship with Mary Jane, who was, classic anime nerds will shout for joy. Childhood friend turned girlfriend. Oh my god, we did it, fellas. We're winning. It's very. I enjoy that they established that she was totally into him in that way before he got powers and before he was athletic and all this other shit.
Yeah, you can really see it.
in how they look at each other.
Yeah, and then she explicitly says it as well. But it is. I don't think I even gave a synopsis because we've described that both Doc Ock is trying to get revenge on Justin Hammer. Norman Osborn became the Green Goblin, and then when he came back to Peter's life, he was manipulating his son, manipulating things to make sure Peter had to interact with him. All this stuff didn't really go over like much of the initial arc past Uncle Ben getting shot, but after catching the guy who directly shot him, Peter's mad at the system that created the situations where guys like that shoot people like Ben. And he goes after the highest up man he can think of in the structure of that system, the Kingpin, and decides, you are the man who most deserves to be brought down. And tries to go after him. And that's what the first major arc culminates in, is that Peter taking down the Kingpin. But it's that first arc gets capped off by an issue that is just one conversation between Peter and Mary, and I love that issue. It's one of my favorites of like these first few arcs. That's just, hey, can you come over? I want to talk to you. And he has to tell her the secret because I've been sketchy and my life is way more spectacular, but also way more stressful, and I'm falling apart, and I'm pissing you off, and I gotta tell somebody about this. Can I tell you the coolest thing ever? And he does, and it's great.
I do appreciate how happy and ecstatic she is about it.
It's refreshing, especially in this new, like, oh, the female lead has to have already known because she's so smart, or there has to be, like, an extra drama element on top of it, so she feels betrayed that, oh, you didn't tell me for X amount of time. No. They're 15-year-olds. Superpowers are cool as fuck.
Yeah.
She's happy. What did you think about Pig, Mary Jane's relationship to Peter, or how she reacts to the fact that her boyfriend is Spider-Man?
It's very cute.
It is.
It is very wholesome, young love in a positive way.
It's very cute and refreshing, and I'm glad we don't have to like deal with any like interpersonal drama on that aspect.
Well, not in the beginning, but at the last page I had you read.
Yeah, we will now be seeing some interpersonal drama.
Although it's not front loaded, and it's not the entire time.
It's not front loaded. It's not the entire time, and it's earned.
Yes, it is very earned because Pig, I'm sure you've heard about the way Gwen Stacy died.
Yes, does that happen in Ultimate?
Well, that would be a spoiler for what happens in Ultimate, but I'm saying that because, Pig, you've seen the scene.
Yeah, I've seen that scene, both the comic panel and the one in the.
No, you saw the scene in the Ultimate comic, except Mary Jane.
Green Goblin is holding Peter Parker's girlfriend on top of the Brooklyn Bridge and tosses her off.
Yeah. You're right. And
did you realize in the moment you were watching a recreation of the most iconic death in all of comic books?
One of the most iconic deaths. The death of Superman also counts.
Yeah, that's up there. You got me. But Pig, did you realize like what they were going for?
I did.
Okay, good. Because even ending on that scare of she's not waking up. Oh my god, she's not waking up.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this is the Ultimate setting. They could have totally just killed Mary Jane off there.
People didn't know how much they take death seriously in the Ultimate yet, because this is the first Ultimate series.
Yeah, it's the first one that started in the 2000s. Exactly in the year 2000. It's definitely the best one out of all the different Ultimate runs, but Hickman does really, really good work in the Ultimate setting as well.
That's
and
good.
I have to hype him up, of course, because it's Jonathan Hickman. Bendis also worked on Fantastic Four, which is funny that he gets things wrong.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, you said that Ultimate Fantastic Four started in 2004, was it?
Yes.
Okay, so I've now figured out the reason for that mistake.
For 4
Because I
years.
pointed out in the I'm pretty sure that in these we're still in like 2002 or something.
Yeah.
For like the years we're at by now, by like the third, fourth, fifth arc. So if Venom's like the fifth like story arc, we'll say. That's probably still before issue 1 of Ultimate Fantastic Four. And what I'm getting at, Pig, is something I told Wolfo the other day, where you're gonna get some backstory on like Peter's parents, and there's a bit where Peter's dad points out that it was me and my partner who discovered this thing. It wasn't Tony Stark and it wasn't Reed Richards. It was us. Like, holy shit, we are the types of people who do this shit now. And it's not like a throwing shade. It's like a holy shit, we did something that they didn't do. Damn, look at that. But as it turns out, at the time that Peter's dad said that, Reed Richards would have been like between like 10 and 12, something like that.
Oh, so like
So that makes no sense.
like the timeline doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, because they hadn't written the origin of Reed Richards yet. Whereas like by the time like Peter becomes Spider-Man, Reed's like 19.
You see,
Yeah.
Peter, this 19-year-old didn't do it. I did.
No, Pig. This 12-year-old didn't make the scientific discovery, but I did. It's like he's 12. What the fuck's wrong with you? He just wants
Peter's
a Capri
parents
Sun.
died when he was like fucking like 6 or some shit. Oh.
Listen, he just wants you to let him use the N64 on the TV. Okay, you don't got to fight with him over it.
Okay. So there's one big thing I want to talk about that I really adored in this comic. But before I do that,
Yes.
I actually want to bring up like not really a complaint, but more like that's weird.
Yeah.
There's some weird drawn faces in this comic.
That tends to happen with Western comic writers or artists, rather, where sometimes they'll make faces that are immaculate, and sometimes they'll make faces where it's like, okay, I get what you're going for, but it's uncanny when you do it on a 2D drawing.
Like they're very specifically like encompass an entire like a square in a comic book panel or whatever the terminology is.
A panel or
Yeah, the face encompasses the entire panel, and like super zoomed in face, or like zooming in on like the eye, like looking.
Yeah,
in.
but like the angle makes it look really weird, or like his nose doesn't quite line up to where I'm usually used to seeing it.
Or it's just a really weird smile that Peter is giving MJ.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a little messed up, but sometimes it works really, really well.
So, is that just a Western comic thing, or was that specifically the artist for this comic?
There's a couple of things.
I would say it's a Western comic thing in general, but go ahead, Para.
Well, there's two things. One, it's a Western comics thing, and a lot of times because of like the deadlines, because everyone in comics is working on several things. Like a lot of Bendis wrote issue 1 of Ultimate Fantastic Four. He didn't stop writing Ultimate Spider-Man to do that kind of thing. I assume artists are the same way, so they have deadlines. So what a lot of times artists will do, and it's frowned upon to do it a lot, but hey, deadlines. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Is they'll take things from magazines or stills from movies or something and trace the general shape of someone's face that looks kind of like a character you're working on.
Yeah.
So every now and then you'll get some inconsistency because people do that. Or sometimes if you see like some artists are notorious for this.
Yeah.
If you see like a really uncanny looking face of someone screaming in pain or in anger or something, there's a non-zero chance that is traced from a moaning face in a
I will name and shame the artist. Greg Land is notorious.
Yes, that's
for doing
the one. That's the one who's most famous for that.
Is he the guy who traced Iron Man over like a stock photo of an old man like clutching his chest?
Yes.
Okay, I know that. Like that's
and he gave Iron Man's face like realistic old man wrinkles because that's what's on the stock photo. But he didn't need to do that.
Over the Iron plate of his face? Like what?
Yeah,
That's just extra work. Why'd you do that?
you
Which is
did
stupid.
extra work to prove you were tracing.
Yeah.
Also, the female faces from actresses is a very common thing with him, and it's weird. It's very
Yeah.
strange.
It just kind of
choices.
reveals how much he consumes.
Yeah.
But also, I'm not sure if YouTube will need you to censor that word, so I'm gonna make sure I say another time, just for your
We're
convenience
already
there.
an hour and a half in. The bots have already left.
Well,
Pig,
the
Pig, if you have to censor anything, like any word or audio with this, please use a Spider-Man sound effect from the video games
Okay, I
of
will.
like a web flip or
You-
something.
You know what? I will, even if I don't need to.
okay, good.
But,
But the other thing about the art is that Mark Bagley, the artist, a lot of people are just like have problems with the way he draws hands or faces, and that's just a person by person thing. But I will never hate on Mark Bagley's art. One, because I really love his art style for this, and two, him and Bendis broke a comics industry record for longest running writer artist team for
Oh.
Ultimate Spider-Man. They were on it for years and years together, and I'm not sure if their record has been broken yet.
Nice.
I would have to look into it.
But to go back to what I was gonna mention, I think the thing that I liked most about this comic book was Peter's like transition from me from starting out to really becoming a hero and being recognized as a hero. Like there's multiple instances where he'll stop like a burglar, and here's your purse back, ma'am, and like the lady and every other like person around him is like freaked out by him because like he's like he's a weird weird freaky mutant. What's he gonna do?
Get out of here, Muty.
People are just very much scared of him, and it's done like the hardest with the hammer guy, where he gets blamed for Doc Ock's attack. Like he gets like insinuated as
By
being
Hammer
involved.
himself.
Yeah, by Hammer insinuated as being involved in that.
And Peter's just so fed up with it too. He's like, he's so angry,
Like
and rightfully so.
It keeps happening, and it's not until he defeats Doc Ock, he squashes Craven, where he finally gets the opportunity to just talk to the press and just give his his take on everything.
Yeah.
It's a very refreshing scene too.
We get a really
Oh, yeah.
wonderful callback to with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah. It's very nice, and it's very earned. Because, like, in the original comics, yeah, it's just J. Jonah Jameson finding any excuse he can because that's what his character needs to be. He's an antagonistic force for Peter. But they really made it to where it makes sense for his publicity to be as bad as it is, and for him to get as fed up as he does. But then he finally gets his moment where, hey, it just so happens that someone called a press conference at the side of this thing, and they saw you not only save the day, but also be considerate of the lives you are saving and go out of your way to do as little harm and save as much life as possible. And then just straight up ask you, hey, you want to share your side of the story? And he does it, and it works, and I love it.
Chef's kiss to that.
Yeah. So we have gone on for a while. So last segment before your recommendation is something like one. I'm just going to do quick shout outs of another one of those mistakes, like the Reed Richard things that I wanted to point out that might have struck either of you as odd if you noticed, but isn't actually a mistake until we get to the Venom arc. But when Justin Hammer is giving a speech before the first Doc Ock attack, he's at a press conference talking about whatever his company's doing, and you get to see like, oh yes, you there? What's your question? Hi, Eddie Brock from the Daily Globe or whatever.
Yeah, that was it. Eddie Brock.
Well, apparently it was someone named Eddie Brock who was a journalist, like the 616 Eddie Brock. But that's not the Eddie Brock that becomes Venom, because he is not a news reporter. He is a college student that you will meet in another, like, 2 arcs. So that became a mistake later on.
Huh.
So I like pointing things like that out.
He just so happens to have the same name.
Yeah.
That's funny that you point that out, because I completely forgot that I completely missed that they were sharing the same name, I guess, because I was like, I didn't think about it because I already know Eddie Brock. I'm like, yeah, he's an asshole. He's
Yeah.
like, he's not a reporter. He's like slightly older than Peter because he's in
Yeah.
college, but he's like not. He doesn't have a job at like a news reporter place, and I don't even think he was attempting to become one in the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah, like I saw. Yeah, oh yeah, that's Eddie Brock. He's a reporter. I remember from the Raimi movie.
He
Yeah.
didn't ever work at the Bugle in the original comics, though. I don't believe. I believe that was the Raimi thing. Just, well, if he's got to be a reporter, have him at the one
Yeah,
big.
we're just going to have to be a dark mirror of Peter, is all Raimi did with him. And which it works, because that's what Venom is.
Yeah, to be fair, I'm going to say something that might seem odd, but a lot of how he behaves as Venom personality-wise actually is really close to the original Venom personality. Because if you go back to the 616 comics, original Venom is a comedy character, like dialogue from a vicious murderous monster.
Yeah, like stuff you might associate with Carnage more these days.
Yeah, which is interesting to go back to. And personally, I think Venom should always have somewhat of a sense of humor.
Yes.
But he shouldn't be as wacky as Carnage. But I have very specific Venom opinions that I keep arguing with other people about. But that's a whole other tangent.
Right.
What I will say, though, with this in general, for the Ultimate run, is that it holds up completely fine. There might be like a line here or there that you're like, 2000s.
I wanted to point out one other thing for you specifically, Wolfo, because you've read plenty of 616. Did you notice anything about the way the lettering of your dialogue was?
The difference, and you might not know this, Pig, is 616 is all caps.
Oh,
All the lettering of all the dialogue is in all caps.
Oh, okay.
Ultimate
but proper
Universe,
capitalization in Ultimate.
Yeah, Ultimate has proper capitalization, and then the rest of the word will be lowercase. There is a thing where whenever 616 and Ultimate Universes collide in events,
that stays consistent.
That stays consistent. Where a 616 character will be talking to a Ultimate character, and 616 will be talking in all caps, but the Ultimate character won't. It's a neat little lettering touch, but it's very neat, and I like it.
It is one of the most if you know things that you will only notice if you are already deep in there. But it's very nice that it stays consistent, because then like I'm pretty sure the stuff leading up to the new Ultimate Universe with the Maker breaking out and all that stuff had that stuff, because it'll be like, 616 Reed is talking to the Maker, and one of them's talking in all caps, the other's not, and you go, oh yeah, that's my shit. Yeah. Was there anything else either of you wanted to bring up, or any more of your research on the Ultimate Universe that you did before we get to Pig's recommendation?
No, I pretty much got everything out that I wanted to get out.
I had one last thing I wanted to say, which is that I liked Norman Osborn's Green Goblin transformation a lot more than I remembered liking it, and that's because I don't like it initially. I like it when it's sized down a bit.
So when it's initially
large.
like brown and too big.
I'm happy he's more green later, but the main issue for me was he should be larger than Peter. He shouldn't be Juggernaut competing for size, right? A Green
Right.
Goblin shouldn't be bigger than the Rhino. That just feels wrong to me. So I'm happy that when we see him properly later, no, he's sized down and he's more green.
Mhm.
He's a layer below like Hulk or Juggernaut.
Personally, I like him having the glider more than being a Monster Man, but I like the Monster Man design a lot more than I thought I did. I still really think the Sentai style suit from the Raimi movies is underrated. I know there are a lot of people who don't like that version of Goblin, who are like, or the design of Goblin. They like Willem Dafoe's performance, but they don't like the design. So they're
Yeah.
like very hardcore Spider-Man fans.
Yeah, those
But
people are
no.
what I like to call wrong.
Spider-Man has the overlap of Sonic fans of the same type of insanely hyper specific fixations on how the setting should be. And as someone who likes Sonic and likes Spider-Man, it is a battle with them every day.
Now, send us home with your recommendation. If it's something Wilfo's like super into, like we might rope him into another episode, but like I don't know. Just let us know. What do I need to check out next month, Pig?
Okay,
Please don't
Para.
kick me to the curb. I'm so lonely.
Okay, Para. For next month, you're gonna check out the various adaptations of
I can run,